Alright, so today we are going to be talking about the top 5 must-have units in the game. And let me go ahead and make a big disclaimer before everyone starts throwing their tomatoes, pitchforks, torches, all that type of stuff. This list is not in a way to influence anybody to summon on whatever. It is not you must have this character on your account. No, this is not that type of video. This is more a kind of informational video, video to help newer players in knowing who the better characters are in this game. Also, for veterans, this is something for them to look at, maybe give your own input for which 5 stars you think are must-haves on the account, quote-unquote must-haves. But this is more of an informational, more lighthearted video, not something super crazy when it comes to you must have this, you must have that, because you want to have fun in this game. And if the characters I'm listing aren't fun to you, or don't look fun to you, or you don't like how they look, all that type of stuff, then just don't summon for them. Summon for who you think you might have fun with, build your teams around them, and you'll enjoy this game a lot more than to listen what do I have to say. But let's go ahead and talk about, in my opinion, the top 5 best 5 stars in the game, or must have 5 stars in the game. And I'm basing this strictly on the amount of teams you can currently make with them, the amount of teams you can currently make in the future with them, their utility, and that type of stuff. So let's go ahead and get straight into it with the top 5 list. But I do want to add a runner up, and I know this runner up is already going to give me some slack or whatever. You're gonna give me some hate. But let's go ahead and talk about the runner up, who I don't think makes the top 5 list, but is a very good unit, a very busted unit. Zhongli. Now Zhongli, yes, I know he is absolutely amazing when it comes to his shield. His shield not only makes you invulnerable, it's almost a lifeline for mobile players that have a little bit trouble moving around as much in the overworld or in Abyss. Zhongli is basically the you're not going to take any damage type of character. His ult stuns, his shield is makes you invulnerable pretty much. His shield also gives a 20% res shred on any element in the game, so that is absolutely busted. He does have almost a complete package, but there's one thing I want to note about Zhongli that kind of sets him back from a lot of the other characters I'm going to be listing, and that is he is a Geo shielder, and he is a shielder, period. Now, let me preface this. Since Zhongli is a shielder, and of course one of the best shields in the game, a lot of the shielders are losing value because a lot of these newer characters that are coming into the game, and I can see this happening even more so in the future, a lot of these healers, a lot of these other support units are getting some increased resistance or increased resistance to interruption. And this is basically the main viewpoint, or the main benefit that shields give, is that you're still able to do DPS and all that type of stuff while you take damage. Now some healers are coming out with that type of stuff, some units are giving that from their skills and their ult, so shielders as a whole are losing value little by little. They'll still be amazing, of course, and Zhongli is amazing with his red shred, his shield, and his stun. But since there's so many amazing reactions in this game and so many different support kits and support buffs, since Zhongli is a Geo shielder, he's not really able to fit into the playstyle of a lot of different teams, especially ones more centered towards reactions, because having that Geo slot or having Zhongli on a team is not dead weight, but you aren't able to do much with him on a team when it comes to reactions. I know a lot of people like to use Zhongli with Hu Tao and have Yulon and Xingqiu, but imagine if you're able to add Bennett into the team, or Kokomi or Mona, and they add more Hydro, more Pyro, more damage to be done, while Zhongli, his ult is a big time waster in the Abyss. He takes away elements sometimes from the enemy because of the Geo pulses, or the Geo pulse when you pull out his shield. There's a lot of things that Zhongli does that are amazing, and there's some things that take away from his amazing kit as well, especially him being Geo. No hate to my Geo mains, but when it comes to being Zhongli in a reaction centered team, he is kind of a weight on your team compared to somebody else that could come out in the future, or somebody else that's currently in the game right now that has a different element and is able to provide almost the same thing that Zhongli has. So that is the one thing I want to say about Zhongli being a runner-up. But let's go ahead and talk about one of the other characters that is on this list, and I'm going to leave the more popular ones, I guess you could say, on the end of the list. But let's go ahead and talk about our first one, which is Kokomi. Now, I do think Kokomi is a top 5 unit in the game, specifically because she provides so much in her kits. Not only is she an amazing healer to the point where she's on Zhongli levels of invulnerability almost. She doesn't give resistance to interruption, but she does have one of the best elements in the game, and that is Hydro. she's able to be put on a lot of different teams, specifically for boss melting, for dendro core making, for all of these types of reactions that you could possibly make with Kokomi. And you're also able to heal your team, heal the character that's on field with their jellyfish. There's just a lot of utility that you can get from Kokomi, and especially since in the future with, you know, more cryo characters coming out, more electro characters coming out, more pyro characters coming out, all these different types of elements that react with hydro, because hydro is such a good element, she is going to be usable, and she's going to be accessible. She's going to be absolutely amazing in so many more teams to come, and teams that are currently in the game. She has a lot of reactions that she can react to, a lot of elements that she can be with. She's able to be put on so many different teams, and having her on your account, honestly, 100% of a boost when it comes to your team building, what you can do, the comfortability of your, you know, runs in the abyss or the overworld. She just has almost everything when it comes to you know, keeping you alive, and also able to, you know, help with support with the reactions and all that type of stuff, because hydro's so good. Has a lot of access to a lot of different reactions, like, you know, vaporize, freeze, the dendro making, being able to proc the dendro cores, all that type of stuff. So yeah, Kokomi is definitely one of those stronger top 5 units in my honest opinion. Like, again, like I said, for all of those veteran players out there, let me know if you agree with this, or let me know who you think should be in the top 5 when it comes to 5 stars, because I know if we talked about 4 stars, a lot of these units on this list would be 4 stars for the top 5, because a lot of these 4 stars are just so amazing. Besides Kokomi, let's go on to the other of the same element, because yes, hydro is almost the king, if not the king of Genshin. I do think Yelan is in that top 5. I do think Yelan is amazing, and let me preface this. I do know Xingqiu exists, correct. Xingqiu gives a lot of utility. Not only does he have a high hitting skill, he has a high hitting burst. He has the option to have the sacrificial sword, so that he's able to get his energy back almost instantly. He can rock Emblem Observer Fate. He's able to have resistance to interruption. He applies wet near surrounding characters. Xingqiu basically does everything. So it's very, very easy to know that he is one of the best characters in the game. Now, Yelan being a mirror of Xingqiu is the reason why she is so good. Now, she doesn't have resistance to interruption. She doesn't have healing. So what does she do? She is hard hitting, correct? She is able to do the same ult as Xingqiu, but she also has a damage buff built into her ult. So that is honestly a crazy thing to have during her ult, which you have a lot of things to, you know, use with that ult, because it's hydro applying, so you can use that with electro, pyro, dendro, all that different type of stuff. She is a damage buff in itself, having her ult out. And not only that, which I think this is something very important to realize, is that her overworld usefulness is immense. I mean, having the ability to be able to use her skill, especially if you have C1, and infinitely run, infinitely dash, and infinitely being able to use a skill, this is something that's going to help you so much and save so much time for when you're doing stuff out and about in Genshin, exploring the overworld. Makes things a lot more comfortable, make things a lot more smoother. So to the fact that she's almost Xingqiu's mirror, but she's losing a little bit of utility, she still has amazing stuff to her kit, like her damage buffs, her overworld usefulness, especially with her skill. She overall has a lot when it comes to being on your account, and she can be built with a lot of different teams. Again, with her being hydro, she has a lot of access to a lot of the better teams and a lot of better reactions in the game, with pyro, with cryo, with dendro, with electro, all these different teams that you can use her on just because she's hydro. So I think Kokomi and Yelan are definitely taking spots in the top 5 in my honest opinion when it comes to 5 stars. And now let's talk about the other 3, and these 3 I would love to know if y'all could guess them. Let me know in the comments if you already know who the next 3 I'm going to talk about, which these 3 are no-brainers. Besides Yelan and Kokomi, let's go ahead and talk about Kazuha. Now Kazuha, he is that guy in Genshin. He is by far one of the best animo characters in the game, making it almost effortlessly able to basically clear a floor by himself without the help of the main DPS or other supports. Once you add an element onto an enemy, you're gonna see so many numbers, you're gonna see so much damage if built correctly. He's going to be wiping floors, wiping basically any ads that are going to be in the overworld by himself, and you won't even get to see your main DPS doing damage just because he'll have them at 1 HP or they'll already be dead. So Kazuha, not only with his damage buffing based on his EM, His C2 gives 200 extra EM to all characters, which that's very useful. Being able to buff EM, buff elemental damage. He's able to group. He's able to periodically add the element onto an enemy based on his burst with, you know, the little swipes it does on the floor. He has so much utility, especially when it comes to his kit and how he's able to do a bunch of damage with his plunge attack, how he's able to rock the VV set, doing even more shred. So not only do you have the shred to the element, you also have a damage boost to the element, and you also have some EM sharing if you have C2. He is absolutely nasty. He only needs EM artifacts, doesn't really need a crazy amount of investment unless, you know, you're getting really bad luck in the VV set domain. But you don't really need crazy substats, you just need energy recharge and EM. Other than that, you're basically set. Kazuha is one of the craziest characters in the game, and I don't see a time where he's not going to be, because it's not like we're going to have a country based on flying objects and to the point where he's not able to group those flying objects like how we had the specters and stuff like that. He is going to be a crazy unit, even for, you know, units or characters that you can't group up really, or you can't pick up with his skill. He's still able to give those damage buffs, those EM sharing buffs, those periodic elemental application. He is by far one of the best characters in the game for sure, and this is something that you cannot deny without a matter of fact. He is the guy in Genshin when it comes to being one of the best characters in the game. So as far as we know right now, we have Kokomi, Yelan, and Kazuha. If you disagree with me, let me know. I would love to talk about any of those type of things, and let me know if you see anybody on the list that you think that should be on here. I'm kind of excluding main DPSs honestly, because to the point where so many of these main DPSs need some of these supports that I'm listing right now to function like really good, and without them they would be a former shell of themselves in a way. So talking about these three characters, let's go on to the other two. Now if you can't guess the other two by now, I can clearly see that you're a new player. I'm just kidding. But the next character is going to be the Raiden Shogun. Raiden Shogun by far is one of the most easiest, or being able to be used in the most smoothest way possible. She is going to see infinite use in the future, just like Kazuha, just like Kokomi, just like Yelan. Just because of her elements, just because of her kit, and basically her kit is the main shining goal. Dendro really buffed up Electro, and even with that, it just made Raiden Shogun even stronger, put her on different teams. But her being on a, you know, Hydro based team with, you know, Taser comp, which is possible because of her skill. Her skill being able to buff burst for other characters, her skill providing electro particles on her skill hit from time to time, her burst being able to recharge burst other than herself. Well, actually no, she does recharge her own burst with her burst, and being able to charge other people's burst. She is honestly a crazy character, and the fact that you can build her as a hyper carry, the fact that you can build her as a Dendro Core exploder, you can build her as a sub DPS, you can build her as a, you know, energy support. She literally helps characters not need as much energy recharge because she exists on the team. She is by far one of the most universally, I guess you could say, perfect unit in a way, because she has almost no flaws. She has an amazing skill. She has a, you know, that skill is going to keep hitting Electro, keep adding Electro, and for a lot of cases that's really useful in Hydro based teams, really good for Dendro based teams. These are some really good things to have when it comes to the skill. The skill also busts the burst for other characters. Her burst gives, you know, energy back to every other character and herself, so she's basically giving infinite energy to everyone else. And in a lot of teams like her with Eula, her being able to do the physical res decrease and being able to charge Eula's burst, stuff like that shows you how much she can do. And then she can also be on hyper carry teams with her being the main source of DPS. She's just crazy. She just has so much that she can do. Off-field application, being a hyper carry, being a sub DPS, she can do almost everything when it comes to, you know, her, and she's able to nuke, all that type of stuff. So yeah, Raiden Shogun for sure, a really top tier unit. I do put her at the very top almost, but I know I spent a lot more time talking about the other characters than this one. But we're going to be talking about who I believe, now this one is a little bit ordered, I guess you could say, the number one unit in the game in my honest opinion as of right now for a 5-star, Nahida. Now Nahida is insane. She is definitely going to be C2 when she reruns, hopefully his next patch. If not, whenever she comes back, she's getting C2. Not only is Nahida, her constellations are sick. They're absolutely amazing. All of them busted, kind of. But Nahida at C0 is so strong for no absolute reason. You stack her on a fat ton of EM. She's able to share, I think, 250 to 200 EM to an all, party team members when they're active. Not only does she do that, she has infinite Dendro application because she's able to put it on a multitude of enemies, which they all take damage at the same time when something reacts with Dendro. They're all taking damage. They're all linked together. They have infinite Dendro application for all of the, all the reactions that you could possibly do. And then she has a super duper short cooldown on that. So she's able to apply it no matter what, 100% of the time. If you're making sure that you're applying it like, every rotation. It lasts a super effing long time. She is hitting for 20, 25, 30k. Just her on full EM. And she pulls that EM into her crit rate, into her crit damage, so it's doing even more damage. And she's allowing you to do infinite reactions with how busted Dendro is, because you can make, the cores, you can do Hyper Bloom, you can do Aggravate, you can do Burgeon, all of this crazy stuff with Dendro. Burning, having these characters with that Nahida mark on them is going to melt them. She is going to clear waves of enemies with her in just one element alone. Nahida is insane with how much utility she gives, giving that big EM buff, having Dendro be applied almost infinitely to all, enemies on the floor, all enemies in the overworld, whatever. She just has the overall crazy kit. Dendro is such a good element because it has so many different reactions, so many different ways to play. This opens her up to be able to be used in so many different teams. And shoot, if you want, you can put her on any team and just have her buff the EM for every character. Her burst lasts a super long time. Her skill lasts a super long time. She barely needs energy for those two because she gets so much Dendro particles back from her skill and from other Dendro characters. Nahida is by far one of the craziest characters in the game. She can clear everything out by herself pretty much. She is nasty. I think these 5 characters, Kokomi, Yelan, Raiden Shogun, Nahida, and Kazuha, I think it's safe to say if you have any of these characters on your account at the moment, or you plan on getting any of them in the future, these characters are going to be seen in so many different teams in the future, regardless of whatever comes out, because there will always be new Hydro units, there will always be new Pyro units, there will always be new Electro units. All of these different types of elements are going to react super well with all of these characters, because Anemo is universally able to be used with any element. Dendro can be used with almost every element. Hydro's being able to use with some of the strongest elements in the game: Pyro, Cryo, Electro, Dendro. All of these characters are able to put on so many different teams because they provide so much to a lot of the teams in the game, with whether it be EM sharing, damage buff, off-field application for their elements. These are the craziest characters I believe are in the game at the current moment. Now, if you disagree, let me know, but I think for the most part, all of these characters are absolutely busted. And they're quote-unquote must-haves. Now, maybe one day I'll do a 4-star version of this list. Let me know in the comments if you do, if you made it this far. If you want to see me do a 4-star version, I can do that. If you want to see me use the 5 most overused or overhyped units, I can do that. Something like that. I don't know. I think this is a real cool video to make when it comes to looking at what characters are truly the best in the game, in my honest opinion, when it comes to 5 stars. I know a lot of people may have their opinions and standpoints, but if you have those opinions, if you think I'm wrong on somebody, or you think I'm overhyping somebody, let me know. Put it in comments, but try not to be disrespectful. Don't be mean about it. I would love to have a conversation with each and every one of y'all. If y'all put it down in the comments. But other than that, thank you guys so much for watching. See you on the next one, and peace.